Hello, upper cervical doctors, and welcome back to the UCM podcast. I'm your host for today's episode, Dr. Bill Davis, founder and CEO of UCM Practice Growth Systems. Very excited to be with you again today. It's a special podcast for those of you in practice growth stage 2 or 3. And we're going to be talking to you about how to align your team on a proven path for long-term growth. So let's get right into it. The key with practice growth stage 2 and 3 is to build systems that turn practice momentum into consistent growth. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, and highlighting another one of our membership tiers that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, and that is the UCM Align membership. And these two stages, practice growth stage 2 and 3, are the growth stages where most doctors get stuck. This is the stages that we see doctors end up in for years, even decades in these same stages. And so most doctors are in these two stages. When we do our surveys every year, this is the most common answer for where you are in practice. And the thing is, when you get to these two stages, the practice has proven it can attract and help patients, but growth a lot of times can remain inconsistent. You can have inconsistent months, right? Some months are really strong and encouraging, others are slower, and there's not a lot of clear reasons why. And a lot of times you'll have unpredictable new patients where you get new patients coming in, but they're not reliable as far as the consistency of the new patients. And so schedules can be inconsistent from month to month. And a lot of times too, we'll see docs in these stages that they're busy, but they're not real efficient. The team will stay occupied, but the practice can feel like it's running harder than what the results are actually producing. And also a lot of times, especially in practice growth stage 2, the doctor is the bottleneck. You can't do anything unless the doctor is there in the practice. If not, the practice literally cannot operate. And so let's get more into these two stages. Practice growth stage 2. Who is a practice growth stage 2 doctor? This is a stage 2. The stage 2 doctor has moved beyond the earliest survival phase, right? And so the practice growth stage 1 is collecting less than $20,000 per month. And practice growth stage 2 is when you are, you're still in solo practice, but you're collecting at least $20,000 per month. And I've seen doctors who have in a solo practice have collected up to $60,000 per month. I even once saw a doctor that was collecting $100,000 a month all by himself. He had a lot of staff and really great systems in place, but it's very rare to see a doctor be able to do that much in revenue by themselves. And also, as a practice growth stage 2 doctor, what we would say is that you would have to have at least one CA in the practice. And so if you are literally a solo practitioner, meaning you have no one to help you at all, then we would still say that you're in practice growth stage 1, regardless of your collections, because everything depends on you. But even in practice growth stage 2, where you have at least one CA in the practice, a lot of things do still depend on you. You carry a majority of the responsibility. Obviously, you're the only one in the practice who can see patients. And because of that, you do see some inconsistent results. New patient results can fluctuate from month to month. A lot of times doctors in practice growth stage 2 are relying heavily on referrals, personal relationships. And, you may have some systems documented and maybe tracking some metrics. And, depending on where you are in this practice growth stage 2, you may be at that point where you're preparing to add an associate, but haven't done so yet. And so when you're in practice growth stage 2, you're building towards consistent profitability, right? A lot of times, your revenue's coming in, but margins, month to month performance are not yet stable. So you get those kind of uneven months. And then you're developing a local reputation, right? The practice is becoming more and more known in the community, but word of mouth alone is not enough to scale. That's typically it's how you maintain a practice, but not how you grow a practice. And learning predictable patient generation is a part of practice growth stage 2, experimenting with what works in your market. How can you get repeatable, measurable acquisition in place? And really it's about moving beyond survival, right? Stage 1 is all about just, trying to keep the lights on and the practice open. In stage 2, you're more stable, but that also can lead to other issues. So some common bottlenecks we see with practice growth stage 2 doctors is the inconsistent patient acquisition. We talked about that. Sometimes a single channel dependence, meaning like it's an over reliance on one way of generating new patients. And a lot of times it's referrals. A lot of times you have weak lead follow-up. So if you are generating leads in any way, shape, or form, and it's just you and one CA, for instance, that CA is usually doing a lot of different things. And so to properly follow up with leads is usually very difficult for that CA because number one, that's not necessarily what they were hired to do, but also because they may not have the skill sets, they may just not have the time. And that can lead to a low lead to booking rate. And so you can generate new leads, but without proper follow-up, the conversion is not there. Only about 20% of leads generated will call your practice, and about the other 80% will fill out a form online and need to be followed up with. Another thing we see with practice growth stage 2 is complacency. A lot of docs who get in this stage, they can be kind of unmotivated to continue growing. And there'll be a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes they just kind of get tired of learning new things and kind of get stuck in what they've done up to that point, or they may be frustrated by things that have happened in the past. Maybe they at one point they did have an associate in the practice and it didn't go well, and they just don't want to deal with it again, right? And so complacency is a big struggle for practice growth stage 2 docs. And a lot of times too, you have unclear team roles. If you have multiple CAs, if you're a little higher up with your collections, you may have responsibilities that overlap or are undefined, and it can cause execution gaps and confusion. We see that a lot with practice growth stage 2. And almost always the doctor's doing too much, right? They're filling all the operational gaps personally, which is limiting their capacity to do things that only they can do. And then the biggest issue with practice growth stage 2 is it's a solo doctor practice, which means that if you go on vacation, the practice closes. A single doctor office has to close when a doctor goes on vacation, goes to a conference, is sick, or gets injured, right? So it makes the practice more vulnerable, obviously, to a lot of different things. And so what do practice growth stage 2 practices need? They need a guide and a path, right? A clear roadmap that is specific to your practice and a guide to walk you month by month through that roadmap so that you can get to where you want to go, which is ultimately to the next stage of growth where you have 2 doctors in the practice. The practice isn't vulnerable to things like, sickness and injury and vacation and just you being able to get out of the practice from time to time and the practice continue to go without you. Like that is the goal of most practice growth stage 2 doctors. And if that's not your goal and you are in that stage, we would encourage you to think that through because it will make a tremendous difference in your practice when you actually have 2 docs in the practice. And then the other thing is having that patient attraction engine, that consistent, measurable system that generates new patient opportunities week after week, and then having solid lead follow-up and booking, either having the systems internally to do it or having external systems that can help you consistently book appointments, and then having really clear metrics, right? Knowing your numbers, understanding them, understanding how to improve those numbers is really important. And so what about a stage 3 doctor? So Practice Growth Stage 3 is a 2-doctor practice. Typically, it's a clinic director and another doctor or associate doctor within the practice. This is a practice that's typically collecting anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 per month. They have an established team and steady patient demand. They have some systems in place, but may not be consistently followed. They can experience growth plateaus, staffing challenges, profitability issues at times, and need a strong leadership, accountability, and performance management in order to get both schedules full. That's one of the biggest challenges at this level of Practice Growth Stage 3 practice. Is a lot of times the clinic director's schedule is full and the associate schedule is not. And so that becomes the priority, is filling that associate schedule so that you can get to move into Practice Growth Stage 4, where you have a second associate, you can expand capacity, help more people in the community, and reduce dependence on you as the clinic director. And so with Stage 3, you typically have a very healthy patient base, right? You have enough patients coming into the practice to usually at least fill a doctor and a half schedule is usually typically where we see doctors in this stage, and usually a pretty good team, right? You have a functioning team at least that can work together, do some things together, in a proven practice model, right? You've gotten established within the community, and that is all good stuff. There are some common bottlenecks though with Growth Stage 3, and a lot of it comes down to just plateauing, right? You get to a certain point with you and an associate, and you kind of just stop there. You can't go beyond that for whatever reason. Your revenue, your new patient numbers kind of level off, even though you're continuing to work hard and do things that you think will help you to continue to grow. Uneven team performance can happen, right? Where some team members excel while others underperform. No consistent standard of accountability, and unscalable patient acquisition. This is really where you filled your schedule as the clinic director, but it's much more challenging for you to fill the associate schedule, and maybe they don't have the ability to go out there and fill their own schedule. And so that's a lot of times what we see at this level. And then a lot of times too, docs are still kind of in the weeds, right? Daily decisions are still going to flow through you mostly. You don't usually have an office manager at this level. Sometimes you do if you're on the high end of this, but most of the time you don't. And so you're still kind of running the office in many ways, along with training the associate and seeing all the patient or majority of the patients yourself. And so it can be a bit stressful in this stage. And so what do Practice Growth Stage 3 practices need the most? To move from Stage 3 to 4, right, which gives you a lot more, even more freedom than Growth Stage 3 will, is you need that scalable attraction, that consistency of new patients coming in the door. You need a path and a guide, right? A clear roadmap and a guide to walk you along that path. You need to continue to grow as a leader and be able to hold your team accountable to results, and need to have good performance tracking in place. So everyone knows what their key result areas are and how they're tracking them with KPIs. And then those operational systems have to get more and more advanced in order to have everything running at a high level. And the thing too, with both practice growth stage 2 and 3, promotion alone will not solve the problem. This is something that we've seen now. We've had this agency almost 14 years, and I've seen a lot of practices that will come to us and they'll say, you know what, we just need more new patients. And the thing is, that's not always the case. In fact, it's usually not the case that you just need more new patients. New patients may be part of the issue or part of the problem, but it's typically not the main thing that you need to be working on as a practice. And so understanding that is a part of it, but it's not everything, is really important. More leads, in fact, can actually expose weaknesses rather than fix them. When the underlying systems aren't ready, increased traffic flows into a leaky infrastructure, and the result is more missed opportunities, not more growth. Okay, so I want to repeat that. You can get into the place where you're just missing more opportunities, not having more growth. So if systems are not in place, like fast lead follow-up, then what happens when you increase your promotion is your leads go unanswered, or they don't get followed up with properly. If you're missing consistent scheduling processes where you don't have good availability within your practice when it comes to your practice schedule, or you're not cluster booking, so you don't have enough new patient time slots, appointments can just not get booked, right? Or they can, be a new patient be told, yeah, we can get you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, and that is obviously not going to work as well at all. If you don't have a strong consultation conversion, meaning that your consultation exam report process, your new patient process is not strong, then even when you get patients in the door, you're not going to see them convert into a care plan. Then it's not going to help you grow. And if you don't have systems in place for effective patient onboarding, meaning helping them to really understand upper cervical care and understand how they can best get results in your practice, then patients don't stay. You see issues with retention. You lose patients after a few visits, or they don't stay on into wellness care. There's a lot of issues with that. And if you don't have those really great retention systems, then a lot of times you're just wasting advertising dollars, for instance. And if you don't have team accountability and structures in place where it's understood that this team member is responsible for this and this team member is responsible for that, then it just leads to the doctor being frustrated and feeling burnout. So system, and the alternative to this is also true. Systems without patient flow are not enough either. A highly efficient practice with a well-trained team and documented processes will still struggle if the schedule isn't full, right? So strong systems will amplify results, but they need a steady stream of opportunities to work with, right? So it's important to have both an engine that is attracting patients into the practice that's measurable, repeatable, consistent enough to fill the schedule week after week, but also have the infrastructure in place so that systems, team, execution, accountability that converts every opportunity into a committed long-term patient. And that will result in sustainable compounding growth, not dependent on any one channel or one person or an occasional strong month, but have that consistent, sustainable growth when the engine and their infrastructure are working together. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to practice growth stage 2 and 3 is the team has to grow with the practice, right? And it starts with the doctor. The doctor has to start moving from just being a doer, right? I'm the guy that takes care of patients, to a leader who is building up his team so that the team can take care of the patients more and more, and he can take care of the team over time. Also moving from a problem solver to a system builder, right? To really think of, rather than jumping in and fixing every issue, like how can we make this system better so that I'm not in just firefighting mode all the time, and instead I'm building proactive, documented processes. And then also moving from a supervisor into accountability guide, where you're not a micromanager, but you're someone who sets clear expectations with your team and then helps them to accomplish the results that they're looking to accomplish. And then moving from, someone who's just producing, for instance, you're seeing the large majority of the patients within the practice, to someone who's more of a visionary who can reclaim that time and mental space needed to lead the practice into practice growth stage 4 over time. And really what it all comes down to is consistency changes everything, right? When you know where patients are coming from, when you know which numbers, can predict growth, when you know how fast your leads will get followed up with, when you know what each team member owns, that type of consistency within a practice makes a huge difference. And it's what the UCM Align membership is all about. It's a purpose-built growth system designed exclusively for practice growth stage 2 and 3 practices. It's not a generic program. It's about structuring alignment of every component of your practice that's needed for consistent, scalable growth. It helps doctors to bring every critical growth lever into alignment so the practice runs better, grows faster, and depends less on the doctor personally. So Align brings together a path and a guide. This is the key piece of Align for you if you're in practice growth stage 2 or 3, is we're going to work with you to develop a custom roadmap for your practice, your specific practice. What are your strengths as a practice? What are your weaknesses as a practice? And then have a guide come alongside you to encourage you, to hold you accountable, and help you grow. We're also going to be helping you with patient attraction, consistent flow of new patient opportunities through digital, internal, and external promotional strategies so that you can get consistent new patients coming into your practice, but also helping you with lead conversion. As I mentioned, either helping you to build really solid internal systems, or you can outsource your lead conversion to us and we can do it for you, building those solid systems that can turn interested prospects into scheduled, committed consultations. We'll also help you with your practice systems, working with you to help you get dialed in, documented SOPs in place that aren't going to constantly result around your personality doctor and your charisma. And then working with you on your team's execution and performance, building out clear accountability structures and metrics that drive consistent team performance. This is what Align is all about. So the Align membership includes your practice growth roadmaps for both practice growth stage 2 and 3. No matter if you're in either of those stages, we'll have a roadmap that you'll be able to work with us on to determine what's going to be the most important, what's going to be the highest priority, so you can start to work on those things with us, while we also help you generate consistent new patients coming in the door through our internal and external promotion kits, through our digital marketing strategies, and then helping you with lead conversion with AI tools, with internal training for your systems, and if you need it, for external ways of converting leads through our patient booking specialists. The other thing with your membership is you get exclusive discounts. You're going to save money on things like CBCTs and digital x-rays and adjusting tables and posture devices and more. You're going to be attracting new patients through AI SEO so that you are found as the answer on ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and Siri and so forth. And then having a really solid in-office educational slideshow, custom branded 100-slide slideshow to consistently educate your patients in your lobby. So we're going to cover every base as it relates to getting you the infrastructure in place that's going to generate consistent results for you, and then helping you with a clear roadmap and path, along with the attraction strategies, bringing the new patients into the practice. So who is Align for? Align is for practice growth stage 2 and 3 practices that need clarity to grow. If you don't know what you don't know, you need a clear roadmap and a guide. That's the answer, and we will provide that for you as part of your Align membership. If you are in the place where you have an inconsistent new patient numbers, we will help you with that. Get those consistent leads and also the consistent lead conversion. If you're having issues with momentum without predictability, the goal is to get you to the place where you can see predictable growth. If you have a team that just needs clearer systems, Align will help you your team to align behind what each team member needs to do. You can have high levels of accountability and role clarity. If you've just outgrown entry-level strategies, if you're using kind of basic tools and tactics to get you where you were, but now realize that you need more advanced strategies, Align is for you. And if you're really ready to build towards stage 4, where you have multiple associates in the practice, or even at stage 5, we have multiple locations, Align is ideal for you. And if you want upper cervical specific growth, UCM Practice Growth Systems, that's all we do, is we help our doctors get upper cervical specific patients into their practices. Everything we do leads with upper cervical specific content and strategies to consistently attract people who have chronic health conditions in your community, not just any old general chiropractic lead. And so from here, Doc, if you are in practice growth stage 2 or 3, highly recommend going to the website. Go to ucmgrow.com/align. Schedule an initial consultation with us. We'll talk with you about your practice, find out what your goals are, and start talking to you about how Align can help you get to where you want to go. Again, go to ucmgrow.com/align. And as we always say around here, go team upper cervical.